Hello everyone, my name is Robin and welcome to my reaction to RWBY Volume 9 Beyond, Episode 3, The Adventures of Somewhat. So, Episodes 3 and 4, Episode 4 focusing on Ruby and Yang and perhaps others, they were both released together at the same time, on the same weekend, both released today, but I am including them both in separate videos just to be able to have dedicated spaces talking about both of them, so you will see that in a separate video. But I have a couple of different orders of business to get into before the reaction itself. The first thing is, this video was recorded the day after the final Rooster Teeth live stream, the Why We Were Here live stream that ended up being 6 hours and 20 minutes long, even though it was meant to be 2 hours, but like, I think even the crew themselves knew that it was not going to be 2 hours. But I did greatly appreciate listening to everybody who was on that live stream. I caught 5 hours of it, and I am going to go back and watch the rest. Every last person who was on that live stream was important to listen to, and the whole live stream was kind of focused on, like, here are the people who are normally behind the camera. A lot of the people on that stream it was the first time being in front of the camera, but it was still important to listen to everybody, and I greatly appreciated hearing from all of them. I have nothing else to talk about, so let's get in the reaction for RWBY Volume 9, Episode 3, The Adventures of Somewhat. Episode 3 in 3, 2, 1, now.
Deep in the branches of the great tree.
Oh, this is still... So are they kind of figuring,
creature,
like, so Team RWBY is making up the story,
trusty steed,
yeah,
Juniper,
as they go. So this is after, because it's Team RWBY kind of telling the story.
We can do anything.
They were right to be somewhat
It is
nervous.
great to hear from Lucy Christian
Having a new
again.
purpose can be tough, and this was an important one at that.
This is reminding me of Cabooses' Guide to Making New
You see,
Friends.
Things have been a bit different
Or finding
in the
a
ever
home.
after lately. Tasked by the blacksmith, they were given a somewhat ambiguous quest.
I was wondering if we would
Find
see a
what
different
feels
version of the
wrong.
blacksmith, because that's only how
When asked where to look,
they appeared
the
to
blacksmith simply
RWBY.
replied, "Do what your heart desires. Do what feels right." Still
Yeah, that's
somewhat
your
unsure
purpose.
of where to go,
It's a
they
very
first
broad
followed their
purpose.
hearts to the newly rebuilt acre of the Genial gems.
That looks great.
Wow. Everything looks so shiny.
So I get why they brought Luca back
Excuse
on
me.
to
Excuse
draw
me.
this, because it's
Have you seen anything
a
out
character
of the
that Luca
ordinary?
designed.
They were somewhat sad to be ignored, but also marveled at the gems' concentration. You see,
Yeah, the
the
gems
gems once had a hero that helped them day
The gems
in
got
and
it
day
all
out.
figured out. They don't
But
need Sean anymore.
Because of that, they thought not of themselves.
Aw.
Oh, we do not mean to be rude. We are just busy, said a nearby gem. The more that we help ourselves now,
that's
the more we can
Issa's
help
gem.
others in the future. I, however, am currently resting, an important part of physical activity,
What does that
so I can
mean?
assist you.
Okay.
It makes me happy to make you happy.
Yeah, they
the
don't
gem
need
explained.
assistance because that's their
It
job,
makes me
kind
less
of.
happy to tell you that we have seen no ordinary or out of ordinary things of late.
No,
Just ourselves.
nothing ordinary, nothing
Thank
out of.
you.
That's fine.
Next, their heart desired a sweeter smell.
Yo, I love this set so much. This is probably my favorite
Did
set of
something
Volume
bad
9.
happen here? I hope
love the
everyone
market.
is okay.
The hookers.
Yes, they reply. But we've all come together, and because of that, we're
So-
stronger. Finding nothing wrong, they
talk
were
about the
somewhat
hawker in a bit.
discouraged. Their heart led them nowhere. How
Yo,
may
what
I
is that, like,
assist you?
jackal in the
herbalist
background?
asked.
Oh,
What?
We're not yet
I
ready
need to go back and look
return
at
to
that
the
later.
tree. We still have our purpose.
I see. May I ask a small favor? There is an afterinn in need.
Yo!
Do what feels right.
Yo, go deliver this. Oh. Oh, the Red Prince? Or well, the Red
This
Prince would
place
have
feels
already
wrong.
done that. Probably.
Guided not by their heart, but an afterinn in need, they entered the empty Crimson Keep.
Yeah.
Typically ruled over by the loyal
Because the
guards of
cat
the Red
isn't
Prince,
here anymore.
no such army appeared to
So
be present.
now, the cat's job kind
After
of
searching and searching,
became somewhat
they finally stumbled upon a lone occupant,
the Red Prince. Yeah.
the Red Prince himself.
Where is everyone?
Without looking up, the prince muttered, I sent them away. How could one expect them to be ruled by someone like me?
Who is someone like you?
Oh.
The prince's trance on the game piece finally broke, and the two locked eyes for the first time. You seem familiar.
As do you. I wonder if we used to be friends.
The
Yo,
prince
that's
smiled.
true. They met in another
I
life.
wonder. Please, sit. Let's play a game.
Oh, I'm
I
so
don't-
sorry, but
yeah, I
I
don't
have
think-
a job.
As do I, the prince interrupted. And if you beat me, I'll happily help you with yours.
Well, I don't know if...
So, what is your purpose?
To win this game.
That doesn't seem very fair. What if my purpose was to win too?
Such is the way of our life.
What if it doesn't have to be? I'm still new here, but I've
What's
met
getting into
loads
some
of
Matrix
Africans
stuff?
and people that have grown and found new things to do.
What
even
if we could
without
do
going to the
something
tree.
more?
Who knows?
This
Maybe
is-
you could
why
teach
is this
others
so
to win.
ominous? What?
Speaking of, I won! I think? I'm sorry.
After a long silence, the Red Prince finally spoke. Thank you for playing with me, little one. I've learned a lot.
Yo. Oh, this is touching on one of my favorite aspects of
It
Volume
seemed that
9,
more than a somewhat big impression had been
which
left on the
is
prince.
the effect that
And
Team
there was
RWBY
one less
still
wrong thing
has.
in the ever after. Their purpose complete, they desired nothing more than a rest after their grand adventure. Unfortunately, life is
This-
seldom as straightforward.
This may not be the acre to do that in, buddy. Why does
when they
the...
saw someone that they were somewhat not prepared to see.
Neo? Probably? Are we actually getting Neo closure in this?
You're back!
I'm... They did not just... Oh my god, Cal is probably malding. Holy crap. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that that was supposed to be Neo and not the cat, but I'll talk about that later. Oh, this gave us a lot to think about. Holy shit. Okay, so I'm gonna go back individually and talk about the different parts. Okay, so Robin from the future here. I did not interpret this correctly at first. This was very interesting. So essentially what happened here with Somewhat is they wouldn't know this. They wouldn't know whoever this person is unless it is two people. One, it is the Blacksmith themselves, or whatever form the Blacksmith took with Little to Somewhat, or it's Team RWBY and or Jean. There is nobody else that Little or Somewhat would know. And as we see in this episode, right, Somewhat does not know who the Red Prince is. So anyone from that previous life, obviously with all the memories wiped away, the only memories they made with anybody that would be returning from a portal like that we know of at this point, which is what we're supposed to kind of assume as the audience watching a short like this, is that it would be someone that we know, is that it's Team RWBY or Jean. Neo, it could be, like, theoretically, because Neo went to the tree, like, the moment that Somewhat showed up, so, like, Somewhat could have noticed in their peripheral that, like, Neo was leaving and thus coming back, but, like, they wouldn't come back through that portal, they would come back from, like, a hole in the ground, right? Surely. That kind of portal heading into the Ever After, we have to assume that, like, they went to the Blacksmith, and from the Blacksmith came over here, or something to that effect. And that means that this wasn't actually Neo, this was Team RWBY or Jean. So that was actually really interesting to see, and I wanted to include this in this video because this is another example of Volume 9 very much not being filler. This is a place we are going to come back to in the future. We don't know exactly how long Somewhat is finding their own new purpose or executing their own new purpose in the Ever After, but we understand, like, this is long enough, this is taking place over a long enough period of time that now Team RWBY and Jean are coming back perhaps when they're needed most, or when they most need to get Somewhat for something. And that is just incredible. Like, this... it was always so frustrating. So incredibly frustrating for people to call Volume 9 filler. Like, you have no idea what that word means, and you're just using it as an excuse to be mad about what you think Volume 9 should give, and having absolute zero or just bad faith in the writers. Like, they wouldn't be executing multiple things at once and building up more than you have the concept to believe that they're building up. Planting and payoff. Fundamental aspects of storytelling. Things often get planted in a good story that you don't understand they're planting until they've paid off. And you want to think that you know more about the show than the writers do, or you want to think that the writers are just giving an excuse to assassinate Ruby's character. Like, you're stupid. Absolute brain dead. And at this point, I don't care if I say that on camera because this is the last reaction video that I'm going to make. And I have at least one more RWBY video beyond this one. It's going to come out in like a couple months. So look forward to that, I guess. But that's kind of all I have to say. I'll throw it back to my previous self. The first thing, this did kind of feel like, I believe the first one was a PSA, and the second one was in Season 14 of RWBY. There was Caboose's Guide to Finding a Home, and then Caboose's Guide to Making New Friends. And this just felt so much like that, where it's like storybook presented, which obviously is more of the goal of this, just in general, of Volume 9 Beyond in general. But then it's, different life lessons, carrying Team RWBY's torch, so to speak. And then just in general, in the vibe of it, just kind of felt like that. I like starting out at the Genial Gems, where it's like, well, we don't really need a helper because that's kind of our job, and also there isn't really much going on here right now, so you can move on. But, so it's just nice to, like, see them again. The market, the Hawker. This was kind of one of my critiques of Volume 9 in general. It establishes that there is a difference between Team RWBY and every Afterin, in that, like, Team RWBY doesn't need to go to the tree. The Afterins do need to go to the tree. And what happens when the Afterins go versus when Team RWBY goes? And did the Hawker not just flat out die? Because the Hawker may have been killed by one of Neo's clones, but, like, can we assume that Neo's clones actually had the powers that the Jabberwockers had? And did it even matter if they did or not? Whereas the Hawker is still here, does that mean that somebody else became the Hawker? Because that purpose was no longer the Hawker's purpose, and now that perhaps a different Afterin who naturally went through the tree came back and is now the Hawker? Because they do kind of look a little different, I think, and they're tinier than they were before. So that could definitely be it, but, like, I don't know, it just kind of feels weird, like, didn't the Hawker die? Because wasn't that kind of the main thread of Volume 9 of, like, we're supposed to believe that Neo's clones, even though they're not actually the Jabberwocker, can still permanently kill somebody? I don't know, I feel like that's something that I should know how to interpret the scene about, but I can't because some things in Volume 9 ended up on the cutting room floor for reasons beyond the crew's abilities. I want to see these Afterins again from the gardens. Yeah, so we have some of the toy soldiers, the little board game dudes, the leaf dinos, and then we have this, like, jackal Anubis-looking kind of thing. I don't think we ever saw them, and what I wish we could have seen is probably in this shot, the Alligator Ringmaster, because technically they were supposed to show up in the Garden's Acre in Chapter 5, in the marketplace, but they were cut because they were too big of a modeling thing, right? Modeling team was already crunched, so we didn't end up getting to see character models that were superfluous, which is understandable why we didn't see them, but in a static background image, maybe we could have. I would have liked to see that. And then from this, it was really cool to see this because this is, like, in a sense, Somewhat's job became the Curious Cat's job because the Curious Cat is no longer here. And what do people need? People need help getting to the tree or finding or figuring out whether or not their purpose is their purpose. Because that's kind of the help that Team RWBY gave to Little and why they became Somewhat. So it is cool to see, like, Team RWBY did this for me. I can be this for other people now too. And so that is kind of them doing the job that the Curious Cat strayed from at the same time. So that was really wholesome and sweet to be able to see that. And then And then we get over to the fucking board game, which was so funny and weird. See, like, hey, Red Prince, I'm gonna make you question everything you know about the world you live in, because I know things from beyond. Some red pill, blue pill shit right here, I swear to God. I wish we got like a front on close up of somewhat when they were saying these things. And maybe holding like one red chess piece and one white chess piece in a sort of sense of like, these are the two representations of things. If you take the red chess piece, you don't need to question everything you know. But the white chess piece is like representative of the pieces that Team RWBY was using, and hence, this is what you... That would have been fantastic. Man. And it wouldn't even be the first Matrix reference that's made in a RWBY product too, because there was the great one episode of RWBY Chibi. This is definitely one of the Blacksmith's portals. Again, something that I would have liked to see out of this episode is like, what would the Blacksmith have looked like from Somewhat's point of view? Because the Blacksmith only looked the way that they did and only presented themselves in the way that they did with all the weapons and all that stuff, because that is the way that RWBY would understand it. That evokes a deeper level of understanding from RWBY's point of view, and the way that the tree presents itself to everyone else is different. Granted, it would have cost money to design a new form of the Blacksmith, and would that really be worth it for something that's only meant to appear in this short? So even though it's definitely something I would have liked to see, I understand why they didn't go with it. In a sense, they didn't need to, because this is something that, because this is RWBY telling the story, it makes sense for RWBY to tell it as the Blacksmith doing these things and not the tree or not somebody else, because that's what RWBY knows. All in all, I do understand all of the creative decisions going into this, other than what's going on with the Hawker. Which again can be written off as just, this is a role that a different Afterin could have fulfilled. And that's that. So I do have to now go and react to Volume 9 Beyond Chapter 4, which is called Boba, I think, which is a story that involves RWBY and Yang and maybe other people, who knows. So at this point, I've basically said everything that I want to say about the adventures of Somewhat and Juniper, but mostly just Somewhat. So I'll see you for Episode 4.